Hi there, here is Cat Diving with a new movie from the new Diablo 3 series. Today I'm going to do a comprehensive guide about the new Marauder set in patch 2.4. I've decided to divide my video in two parts. In the first one I will tell you everything you have to know about set, gear, skills, passive, Paragon points, and of course the item from Kanai. In the second part I will show you a piece of gameplay filmed in a greater rift so you can see how this set is used in action. So let's start this guide with the first question, which may be a deal breaker for the new gamers. What is the Marauder set? Okay, so Marauder set is a set that consists of 6 parts: hands, shoulders, head, chest, legs and feet. If you have 2 pieces of this set, you get companions, calls all companions to your side. This one is self-explanatory, so I'll not insist more about it. Moving on, if you have 4 pieces of this set, you get 300% increased damage for every active sentry you have. But this damage applies only to only some spells: Elemental Arrow, Chakram, Impale, Multishot and Cluster Arrow. So in order to have this bonus you have to use these specific spells. If you use all pieces, your damage for every active sentry is increased to 600%. Previously it was only 100%. So this makes the new Marauder set very competitive in higher grifts. Also, a new addition is as important as the new 600%. Now you can activate Marauder if you use Vengeance, which is very important in this build due to a new weapon which I'll show you in the cube. Okay. Basically, of course you need ancients in every slot possible, but you know how to say, if you are lucky you can have them all, but in my case I have only 3 for now. But this doesn't stop me to play in higher greater rifts. Okay, let's take every piece of gear and see what do you have to have on it. So on hands I recommend you to have dex, critical hit chance, critical hit damage and resource cost reduction or cooldown. I prefer resource because cluster arrow is quite expensive, 40 hatred.
Who would benefit from our aid right now.
On shoulders you have to have dex, vit, cooldown and resources costs. Again, on the helm you have to have vit, dex and critical hit chance. Unfortunately my ancient helm dropped with resist to all elements, which is good, but I prefer to have it, but no, life sucks. Okay, on the chest you have to have dex, vit and, very important, increase sentry damage by no matter what. 15% is the best. On legs you have to have dex, vit and I prefer to have regenerate life per second because my attack speed is increased by Paragon points and I can regenerate my life quite fast. On legs you can have dex, vit, resist to all elements and, very important, increase cluster arrow damage. Of course, if you want, you can have moving speed instead of resist to all elements, and the points from moving speed in Paragon points, you should relocate them to Dex. Okay, other gears. A mandatory weapon here is the Manticore. The new Manticore comes with reduce the hatred cost of cluster arrow by 50%. In my case, which is the highest roll you can have. It can be between 40 and 50% hatred. This particular ancient crossbow has quite good stats. Damage, dex, bit, and increased cluster arrow damage, which is a new addition to this Manticore after patch 2.4. Again, we have Bombardier Rucksack, which is again mandatory in this build. Why? Because you can have 2 additional sentries, and if you remember, for each active sentry you deal 600% more damage. As belt, you can use the new belt, which gives you % less damage for every companion you have active, and with the first part of this set, companion calls all companions to your side. You can have as many as 5 companions. I don't believe that if you see here 2 ferrets, you have 2 ferrets. You have only 1%. 2 ferrets are considered 1 ferret, to say in a simpler way. I use focus and restraint rings. One, because I don't have a good set for other items, and second one because I use also a primary skill and consuming skill. So what does this set does? When you hit a resource generator attack, for example this one, evasive fire, you deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. And the second set, when you hit a resource spending attack deal, which in my case is cluster arrow, you deal 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. So you have to use them both by using generating and then using spender. Okay, as wrist, I use wraps of clarity, which reduce my damage for 36% for 5 seconds. Okay, as for an amulet, you could use the Hellfire amulet, which gives you access to the 5th passive, or immunity amulet. I prefer the immunity amulet because in Greater Rift, if you are lucky, you can get a boss, I don't know, with poison, fire, ice or lightning, which can be very easy to deal with. So I prefer the poison one because one, I get one with good rolls, critical hit chance increased by 10% with it, which is maximum, and critical hit damage by 97%, and dex. So it is your choice, but depends on how do you play. If you can play a bit more defensive, you can use an Hellfire amulet for a bit of damage, but if you die and if you want to play a bit aggressive, I recommend you to use one of the immunity amulets. Okay, as for the gems, I use Stone of Vengeance, which increase my damage for every 10 yards between me and the enemy I hit. Okay, of course, the best one of them, in my opinion, Bane of Trapped, which increase damage against enemies under the effect of control impairing effects by I don't know what amount, in my case 36.30%. And after rank 25 you get an aura that reduces the movement speed of enemies within 50 yards by 30%. The second bonus activates the first bonus. This is why, in my opinion, Bane of Trapped is one of the best and most used gems in this game. In my amulet I use Bane of Stricken, which is very good on elites, and especially the Risk Guardian, which can take a lot of time to kill it. Okay, as for my skills, I use Evasive Fire with Focus Rune. You can use Bolas with Thunderball if you want. This is a new addition on patch 2.4. Why I use Evasive Fire on Focus? One, because it is cold, and cold in this game slows enemies, and because increase hatred generated to 7, and all I need from my generator is to give me hatred. As for the bread and butter of this build, Cluster Arrow. I prefer to play with Shooting Stars, the physical rune of this game, which releases 2 rockets at nearby enemies that each deal 600% weapon damage as physical. Previously I was playing with Fire rune loaded for Bear, which only increased damage for the Cluster Arrow. I've decided to play with Shooting Star because one of the passives, which I will explain you in a bit. Of course, you need a kite in this game, so almost everyone uses Vault with Tumble. Then you have to use Vengeance with Seeds rune, because you can gain 10 hatred per second, and using this rune you can spam a lot of Cluster Arrow without worrying. Okay, this skill is mandatory, absolutely mandatory in this build. You have to use Sentry, because this is Marauder set about, and to use with Polar Station because it chills enemy all around within 16 yards. Is that not important? The second part, slowing their moving speed by 60%, this is not important. The most important part is that it triggers Bane of Trapped. Of course, Companion. I prefer Wolf Companion because when I activate it, I gain 30% increased damage for 10 seconds. Also, you could use, instead of Vault, Mark of Death with Contagious. When the enemy is killed, the mark spreads to the closest 3 enemies within 30 yards. But I do prefer to have a kiting method when needs ask for it. As passives, I play with Awareness, which gives me a second chance to life. Ballistics. What is Ballistics? Increase the damage of rockets by 100%. As I said before, Cluster Arrow with physical rune gives you 2 rockets that deal 600 weapon damage. Tool of the Week. Tool of the Week increases the damage against slowed or chilled enemies by 20%. Again, this is another reason to use Sentry with Polar Station and not other rune. This one, Custom Engineering, again is quite mandatory because it increases the number and of sentries to 3. So you have 3 with this passive, and you can gain 2 additional 1 thanks to the bombardier. So you can put up to 5 sentries, and as you can remember, you gain 600 increased damage per every active sentry, which is enormous. As Paragon points, you need to put as many as you want for moving speed. I don't know, if you have 15% moving speed on your gear, you could use here 50% or 30%, as much as you want, and the rest of them, all of them, goes to dex. On offensive, I use attack speed, cooldown reduction, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. If I were a bit lower on Paragon, the order would be cooldown reduction. I repeat, I need the 5 sentries active, and as you can see, you gain only 3. Then you have to wait to cooldown to finish. So, cooldown reduction, critical hit chance, attack speed, and critical hit damage. Here, in order, again I will speak in if I had less Paragon points: resist to all, armor, life and life regeneration, and utility, resource cost reduction, which is very important due to an enormous hatred cost of cluster arrow, area damage, which is very important in the patch 2.4 because Blizzard made it work, life on hit, and of course gold find, whatever. So let's go to Kanai Cube. Here I was talking about the new Dawn. This is the new improved Dawn hand crossbow, which gives you cooldown reduction of vengeance by 65%. This is why now we can use vengeance a lot. With my cooldown reduction from helmet, I don't know, maybe I have 2-3 seconds, no, 3 seconds, no, 2 seconds without vengeance. Here you have to use a new set item from patch 2.4, Visage of Guns, which give vengeance the effect of Dark Heart rune. What does this rune do? It reduces all your damage taken by 50%, which is enormous due to higher rift difficulty. And as the ring conversion of elements, which you gain 200% increased damage to a single element for 4 seconds. The effect rotates through the elements available to your class in the following order: Arcane, Cold, Fire, Holy, Lightning, Physical, and Poison. So basically you have to wait for Physical in order to use the cluster arrow. So now I believe I touched all the points, so let's enjoy some of the gameplay, so you can see and try and play as me, and if you can do better, please do. And okay, that is all, and thank you for watching, and don't forget to play.
Unleash your power, champion.
No, I will not do that. Like the Kanai from Marauder. I'm still waiting.
betrays you!
Would not be wise.
We must heal!
Discipline. I can't do that.
Your fear betrays you!
No, I will not do that. I need more discipline.
Betrays you!
I am too low on discipline.
I require aid!
I'm still waiting.
I require aid! Your fear betrays you! Heal me!
That would not be wise. My hatred is too low. Do that. That would not be wise.
I need healing!
Time. No, I will not do that. ready yet. I need more discipline.
Heal me! Do you want more?
I am too low on discipline. Need more time.
I must heal!
That would not be wise. Not enough discipline. No, I will not do
Do
that.
you want more?
I can't do that.
I am wounded!
No, I will not do that.
Sweet revenge!
That would not be wise. I am too low on discipline.
I must heal!
I can't do that. Not ready yet. I'm still waiting. I need more discipline.
I grow weak!
Not ready yet.
Sweet revenge!
No, I will not do that.
Rift